Standing in the middle of an airport terminal, surrounded by families rushing to their gates, I heard the words that would shatter my entire world. "I forgot to buy you a ticket, Mom. Just go home." My daughter's voice was light, almost casual, like she was telling me we were out of milk. But we weren't standing in a grocery store. We were at the check-in counter for a flight to Hawaii, a trip I had spent $50,000 on. Money I'd saved for years. Money that came from skipping new clothes, from saying no to myself over and over again. Also, my daughter and her family could have the vacation of a lifetime. I blinked, certain I'd misheard her. "What do you mean?" "I paid for everything. The flights, the hotel, all of it." She wouldn't look at me directly. Her eyes slid past my shoulder, focusing on something in the distance. "I know, Mom. But somehow your name didn't get put in the system. It's just one of those things. The flight's boarding soon, so you should probably just head home. We'll call you when we land." The ticket agent glanced between us, uncomfortable. I fumbled for my phone, pulling up the confirmation emails I'd printed and saved and triple-checked. "But I have the booking reference right here. Look, it says." "Ma'am," the agent interrupted gently, "I'm sorry, but there's no reservation under your name in our system. Without a valid ticket, I can't issue you a boarding pass." My son-in-law stood a few feet away, studying his phone like it held the secrets of the universe. He wouldn't meet my eyes either. My grandchildren, my sweet babies who I'd imagined building sandcastles with, had already been rushed ahead toward security. I watched their small backpacks disappear into the crowd. "Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story." People were staring now. I could feel their eyes on me. This older woman in sensible traveling clothes, clutching her carry-on bag, clearly being left behind. Some faces showed pity. Others quickly looked away, embarrassed to witness such a raw moment of family cruelty. The fluorescent lights felt too bright. The announcement system crackled overhead, calling passengers to gates, to destinations, to adventures I would not be part of. My daughter patted my shoulder, the gesture somehow more insulting than if she'd said nothing at all. "Don't make a scene, okay? We really have to go. Security lines are long." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "You know how you get when you're emotional. Just go home, rest, and we'll sort this out later." How I get when I'm emotional. As if my feelings were the problem here. As if I was being dramatic for expecting to be included on a vacation I had funded entirely by myself. "But the kids," my voice cracked. "I brought presents for them. For the beach. I have their favorite snacks in my bag." "Mom." Her tone turned sharper, edged with something I couldn't quite name. Impatience? Irritation? Or was it something worse, something rehearsed? "You're making this harder than it needs to be. We'll figure it out. I promise." She turned and walked away. Just like that. Her husband followed without a word, without even a backward glance. I stood there, rooted to the spot, while families flowed around me like water around a stone. The ticket agent offered me a sympathetic smile that felt like a knife. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" What could she help me with? Could she explain why my own daughter had just dismissed me like hired help who'd forgotten their place? Could she tell me why $50,000 of my savings wasn't enough to earn me a seat on a plane, a spot in the family photos, a place at the table? I walked back through the terminal in a daze. Every step felt heavy, like I was dragging invisible chains. The automatic doors opened to the parking garage, and the afternoon heat hit me like a slap. I found my car, loaded my untouched suitcase into the trunk, and sat in the driver's seat for what felt like hours. The drive home passed in a blur. I don't remember taking the highway exit or pulling into my driveway. I only remember the silence, thick and suffocating, that filled my house when I walked through the door. Every room held ghosts of the life I'd built for my daughter. The kitchen where I'd taught her to bake. The living room where I'd watched her babies take their first steps. The dining table where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, where I'd written check after check to help them through tight months. I sat at that table now, hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long since gone cold. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, marking time I'd never get back. The mailbox outside clanged as the evening delivery dropped through. I didn't move to check it. What was the point? My phone sat silent on the table beside me. Part of me kept waiting for it to ring, for my daughter to call and say there'd been a terrible mistake, that they'd turned the plane around, that they were sorry. But the screen stayed dark as the evening shadows grew long across the floor. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my kitchen watching the darkness outside my window gradually lighten to gray, then pale blue, then the full brightness of morning. Birds started their singing. The neighbor's dog barked. Life continued like nothing had changed, like my world hadn't just been torn apart at an airport check-in counter. That's when my phone erupted. The buzzing started just after 7 in the morning, call after call after call. I watched the screen light up with my daughter's name, over and over. Then her husband's number. Then my daughter again. The voicemails piled up. The text messages rolled in, one after another, filling the screen faster than I could read them. By the time I finally picked up the phone to look, there were 70 missed calls. 70. My hands shook as I opened the first voicemail. My daughter's voice poured out, high and frantic, Mom, please answer. Something's happened. We need you. I know you're upset, but this is serious. You have to call me back. Please. Mom, please. I deleted it and played the next one. Her husband this time, his voice clipped and demanding, Serafina, pick up your phone. This is important. We need you to fix this situation immediately. Fix what situation? The one where they'd abandoned me at an airport? The one where they'd taken my money and erased me from the trip like I'd never existed? I set the phone down and stared at it. Yesterday, they couldn't wait to get away from me. Today, suddenly, I was indispensable. The woman they'd left behind was now the only person who could help them with whatever crisis had erupted in their Hawaiian paradise. But as I sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of my trust and the echo of their desperate voicemails, a different question began forming in my mind. A question that would lead me down a path I never imagined I'd have to walk. If I had paid for every single part of this trip, if I had booked the flights and hotels and confirmed every detail, how was it possible that my name simply vanished from the reservation? Would you stay silent if your own family betrayed you like this, or would you fight back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because what I discovered next changed everything, and trust me, this story is just getting started. The morning light felt accusatory, like even the sun was judging me for sitting in yesterday's clothes, staring at a phone that wouldn't stop screaming for my attention. I ignored the 71st call. My kitchen had become a museum of my own foolishness. The calendar on the wall still had the dates circled in red marker, the vacation dates I'd been counting down to for months. The receipt folder sat on the counter, stuffed with printed confirmations for luau dinners, snorkeling trips, a private cabana I'd booked so my daughter could have a day of pure relaxation while I watched the kids play in the sand. $50,000 doesn't just appear out of thin air when you're a retired bookkeeper living on a fixed income. It comes from years of small sacrifices that add up to something bigger. It comes from wearing the same winter coat for 8 seasons because it still works fine. From eating rice and beans 3 nights a week because I don't need fancy meals. From saying no to the church ladies' trips to Branson because maybe next year. Every dollar I'd saved had a purpose, to give my daughter and her babies memories they'd treasure forever. To prove that even though I couldn't give her a fancy childhood, her father left before she could walk, I could still give her something extraordinary now. The kettle whistled on the stove. I'd put it on 20 minutes ago and forgotten about it. The sound was shrill, angry, demanding attention I couldn't spare. I let it scream until the automatic shutoff clicked and the kitchen fell silent again. My phone buzzed. Another text message from my daughter. Mom, please. We're in serious trouble. I need you to answer right now. Serious trouble. In Hawaii. On the vacation I'd paid for but wasn't allowed to attend. I picked up the phone and scrolled through the messages I hadn't read yet. Most were variations of the same panic. Call me back, we need you, this is urgent, why aren't you answering? But one message from my son-in-law made my blood run cold. Your stubbornness is putting your grandchildren at risk. Act like an adult and fix this. My grandchildren. He was using my babies as leverage. The same children he'd rushed past security yesterday while I stood there begging to understand what was happening. I set the phone face down on the table and stood up. My legs felt shaky, like I'd been sick for weeks. When was the last time I'd eaten? Yesterday morning, before leaving for the airport. A piece of toast with jam. I'd been too excited to eat more, my stomach fluttering with anticipation. The mail from yesterday still sat untouched by the front door. Bills mostly. A flyer for a new pizza place. A postcard from my neighbor who was visiting her sister in Michigan. Normal life, continuing on schedule, indifferent to the fact that mine had imploded. I walked past it all and climbed the stairs to my bedroom. The suitcase I'd packed so carefully still sat in the trunk of my car, but I had backup outfits laid out on my dresser, clothes I'd planned to wear during the trip. A new sundress, tags still attached. The shell pink sandals I'd bought on sale. A sun hat with a wide brim that the store clerk said made me look ready for adventure. Ready for adventure. What a joke. I sat on the edge of my bed and let myself remember. Not the airport, that wound was too fresh. But the years before. Raising my daughter alone after her father walked out. Working 2 jobs to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. Helping her with homework at midnight because that was the only time I had. Cheering at every school play, every basketball game, every small victory. When she got married, I gave her the wedding she wanted, even though it meant taking out a loan I was still paying off. When the babies came, I was there, in the delivery room at the house, watching them every weekend so she and her husband could have date nights. I changed diapers, sang lullabies, taught them to say grandma before they learned any other word. And yesterday, she told me to go home. My phone buzzed again downstairs. I could hear it vibrating against the kitchen table, the sound carrying through the quiet house like a wasp trapped against a window. I stood up and walked to my desk, where I kept all my important papers in neat, labeled folders. That's what bookkeepers do. We document everything, keep records, maintain order. I pulled out the folder marked Hawaii trip and flipped it open. The first page was the master itinerary I'd printed from the travel website. 6 days, 5 nights. Family package for 5 people, my daughter, her husband, 2 grandchildren and me. The booking confirmation number was highlighted in yellow. The date of purchase, 4 months ago. Total cost, $48,732. I flipped to the next page. The flight confirmations. And there it was, my name clear as day. Serafina Rowe. Seat 14C. Confirmed and paid. My hands started shaking. If the booking confirmation had my name on it, if the receipt showed payment for 5 passengers including me, then what happened at the airport wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight or a computer glitch or bad luck. Someone had deliberately removed me from that reservation. The phone buzzed again. I walked back downstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. The missed calls had climbed to 83. I picked up the phone and, for the first time since yesterday, I listened to one of the voicemails all the way through. My daughter's voice, ragged from crying. "Mom, I don't know what's happening, but everything is falling apart here. They cancelled our spa appointments. The hotel is saying there's a problem with the booking. We can't access half the things we paid for. Jake says it's your fault somehow, that you did something to the reservations. I don't understand what's going on, but you need to fix it. Please, Mom. I'm sorry about yesterday, okay? I'm sorry. Just please help us." I deleted the voicemail and stared at my reflection in the darkened screen of my phone. They thought I'd sabotaged their trip. That I was petty enough, vindictive enough, to ruin their vacation as revenge for being left behind. They didn't know me at all. After everything I'd given, everything I'd sacrificed, they believed I was capable of that kind of cruelty. But someone had tampered with the bookings. Just not me. I needed help. Real help, from someone who understood how travel reservations worked, who could trace what had happened to my ticket and why. I needed someone I could trust, which these days felt like a very short list. I opened my contacts and scrolled until I found the name I was looking for, Deacon Harrell. Deacon and I went back 30 years, to when we both worked at the church's community center. He'd since retired from his job as a travel agent, but I knew he still kept up with the industry, still had contacts at the major booking sites and airlines. More importantly, he was honest. When Deacon said something, you could take it to the bank. I called him. He answered on the second ring. "Serafina? That you? Haven't heard from you in ages. How you been?" His voice was warm, familiar, safe. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear a friendly voice until that moment. My throat tightened. "Deacon, I need your help. Something's happened and I don't know who else to call." If you've ever been betrayed by the people you trusted most, hit that like button. And stick around, because what Deacon discovered about my reservation was going to blow this whole thing wide open. Deacon arrived at my house 2 hours later, carrying a laptop bag and a thermos of coffee that he set on my kitchen table like he was settling in for war. "All right, Serafina," he said, pulling out his laptop and a pair of reading glasses. "Tell me everything, and don't leave nothing out. Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about planning the trip, about the months of saving and the careful budgeting, about arriving at the airport with my suitcase and my hope, only to be told I didn't exist in the system, about my daughter's cold dismissal, her husband's refusal to even look at me, about coming home to an empty house and 70 missed calls the next morning. Deacon's jaw tightened as I talked. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, just shaking his head. "That ain't right," he finally said. "None of that is right. Let me see your paperwork." I handed him the Hawaii folder. He put on his glasses and studied each page carefully, occasionally typing something into his laptop. His face grew darker with each passing minute. "What is it?" I asked. "Hold on. Let me check something." His fingers flew across the keyboard. "What booking site did you use?" "Travelscape. The one with the blue logo." "Yeah, I know it. Used to work with them all the time." He typed more, paused, frowned. "Serafina, do you remember your login information for that site?" I found the password notebook I kept in my kitchen drawer, another bookkeeper habit, and read him my username and password. He logged into my account, and I watched his expression shift from concentration to something harder. Something angry. "What?" I moved closer to see the screen. "What did you find?" "Look here." He turned the laptop toward me. "This is your booking history. See this entry? The one from 4 months ago." I nodded. It showed the family package, 5 passengers, $48,000. "Now look at this." He clicked to another screen. "This is the modification history. Somebody accessed this reservation 3 days before your flight and changed it from 5 passengers to 4. My stomach dropped. Changed it? But I didn't change anything. I know you didn't. Look at the device information. He pointed to a line of small text at the bottom. This modification was made from an Android phone, IP address registered to a location in Austin, Texas. You got an Android phone? No. I have an iPhone. And I've never been to Austin. But your daughter lives in Austin. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. Are you saying, I couldn't finish the sentence? I'm saying someone with access to your account, or someone who knew your login information, deliberately removed you from this reservation. They didn't just cancel your seat, Serafina. They modified the entire booking so it would look like you were never part of it in the first place. My hands went cold. But how would they get my login information? Deacon gave me a look that was equal parts sad and knowing. How many times your daughter been to your house in the past few months? How many times she asked to use your computer or borrow your phone? You keep that password notebook in the kitchen drawer where anybody could find it. I thought back. My daughter had visited 3 times in the month before the trip, always with some excuse. Needed to print something, her internet was down, could she check her email real quick? I'd thought nothing of it. Why would I? She was my daughter. This wasn't no accident, Deacon said quietly. This was planned. Somebody wanted you off that trip from the start, and they waited until the last minute to make the change so you wouldn't have time to fight it. I sank into a chair, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. But why? Why would they do this? Can't answer that. But I can tell you this wasn't just mean, Serafina. This might be illegal. You paid for that trip. That's your money. Somebody used your account without permission to modify a purchase you made. That's fraud. That's theft. My own daughter wouldn't, but even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. The evidence was right there on the screen, cold and factual and undeniable. Deacon leaned back in his chair. I got a friend, lawyer named Yvette Nadir. She specializes in consumer rights and travel disputes. I think you need to talk to her. A lawyer. The word felt foreign in my mouth. I can't take my daughter to court. Maybe you won't have to. But you need to know your options, understand what happened here and what you can do about it. At least talk to Yvette. She's good people. She'll tell you straight. I looked at the laptop screen again, at the cold proof of betrayal spelled out in timestamps and IP addresses. My daughter had stood in my kitchen, probably stood right where I was sitting now, and planned to erase me from a trip I'd paid for. She'd looked me in the eyes, accepted my money, and plotted to leave me behind. My phone buzzed. Another call from her. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail. Make the call, Deacon said gently. Talk to Yvette. You don't have to decide nothing today. Just hear what she has to say. I picked up my phone and stared at my daughter's name in the missed calls list. 89 now. They must be desperate in Hawaii. Whatever had gone wrong with their reservations, whatever had caused them to panic and flood my phone with messages, it was serious enough to make them need me again. But they'd only needed me when things went wrong. When everything was fine, I was disposable. Okay, I heard myself say. Call your friend. I'll talk to her. Deacon smiled, but it was a sad smile. You're doing the right thing. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we do anything for. But that don't mean we got to let them keep hurting us. He picked up his phone and stepped into the living room to make the call. I sat alone in my kitchen, surrounded by the ghosts of all the meals I'd cooked for my daughter, all the times I'd welcomed her into this home with open arms. The coffee pot gurgled on the counter. The clock ticked on the wall. Everything looked the same as it had yesterday morning, but nothing was the same at all. Deacon came back. Yvette can see you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Her office is downtown. I'll text you the address. What do I bring? Everything. Every piece of paper related to that trip. Every receipt, every confirmation, every email. Bring that laptop too, if you can. The more documentation you got, the better. After Deacon left, I spent the rest of the evening organizing my Hawaii folder into perfect chronological order. It's what bookkeepers do when the world stops making sense. We impose order on chaos, create structure where there is none. Every receipt got sorted. Every confirmation email got printed and added to the stack. My phone kept buzzing, but I didn't look at it. I already knew what it would say. More panic, more demands, more accusations that somehow their problems in Hawaii were my fault. Let them panic. Let them wonder why I wasn't rushing to fix their mess. For the first time in my life, I was going to think about what I needed instead of what they wanted. I finished organizing the documents just after midnight and sat back to look at the neat stack. Proof of payment. Proof of planning. Proof of betrayal. Tomorrow I would talk to a lawyer. Tomorrow I would start asking questions instead of just accepting whatever I was told. Tomorrow I would stop being the woman who got erased and start being the woman who fought back. But tonight, I allowed myself one moment of grief. I pulled out my phone and opened my photos, scrolling back to pictures of my grandchildren from their last visit. Their bright faces smiling at the camera. Their sticky hands holding popsicles. Their laughter that used to fill this house with light. Would they understand, when they got older, what their parents had done? Would they remember their grandma, or would I become just a story their mother told? Probably not even the true one. I closed the photos and set the phone down. Enough grief. Tomorrow was for action. If someone you trusted stole from you, would you fight back or walk away? Drop a comment and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow I'm meeting with a lawyer, and what she tells me is going to change everything. Yvette Nadir's office was nothing like I expected. No wood paneling or leather chairs or intimidating law books lining the walls. Just a small, bright space above a coffee shop, with plants on the windowsill and a desk that looked like it came from a thrift store. But the woman sitting behind that desk had eyes that could cut through steel. "Mrs. Rowe, please sit." She gestured to a chair across from her. "Deacon told me a little bit about your situation, but I'd like to hear it directly from you." I'd practiced what I was going to say during the whole drive over. I'd rehearsed it in my head, organized it into neat bullet points like I was presenting a financial report. But when I opened my mouth, what came out was just the raw, messy truth. My daughter stole $50,000 from me and left me at the airport like garbage. Yvette didn't even blink. She just pulled out a yellow legal pad and clicked her pen. "Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." So I did. Again. This time I included details I hadn't told Deacon, like how my son-in-law had been acting strange for weeks before the trip, always asking questions about my finances, about how much I had in savings. Like how my daughter had suddenly gotten interested in my passwords, claiming she wanted to help me organize my online accounts, so they'd be easier to manage. I spread my documents across Yvette's desk. The booking confirmation with my name on it. The credit card statements showing the charges. The modification history that Deacon had pulled from the travel site. The screenshots of the desperate voicemails and text messages. Yvette studied each piece of paper with the same intense focus, occasionally making notes on her legal pad. When she finished, she sat back and looked at me over her reading glasses. "Mrs. Rowe, I want to be very clear with you about what we're looking at here. This isn't just a family dispute. This is financial manipulation. Potentially fraud." My mouth went dry. Fraud. You paid for a service, specifically, A vacation package for 5 people including yourself. Someone accessed your account without permission and modified that purchase to exclude you, while keeping your money. That's unauthorized use of your financial information and theft of services. In some jurisdictions, this could be prosecuted as identity theft. But it's my daughter. Can I really? I couldn't finish. The word prosecute stuck in my throat like a fishbone. I'm not saying you have to press criminal charges. But you need to understand the severity of what happened here. Yvette leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. Mrs. Rowe, how much contact have you had with your daughter since the trip? Just the calls and messages. I haven't answered any of them. Good. Don't. Not yet. She pulled out a fresh page on her legal pad. Right now, they're in crisis mode in Hawaii. Something's gone wrong with their reservations, and they need you to fix it. Do you know what the problem is? They mentioned something about services being cancelled. Spa appointments, hotel access issues. I don't know the details. Yvette's expression shifted into something that might have been satisfaction. I think I know what happened. When they modified your reservation, they probably triggered a red flag in the travel company's system. Large bookings that get altered last minute sometimes get flagged for fraud review, actual fraud, not what they did to you. The company might have put a hold on the account pending verification. So they can't access the things I paid for? Exactly. And because the booking was originally in your name, with your credit card, you're the only one who can resolve it. That's why they're so desperate to reach you. I thought about my daughter's voicemails, the panic in her voice. They think I did this to them. They think I'm punishing them. Let them think that for now. Yvette tapped her pen against the legal pad. Mrs. Rowe, I want to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. What do you want out of this situation? I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. What did I want? For it to have never happened? For my daughter to wake up and realize what she'd done? For my grandchildren to still love me? I want my money back, I finally said. And I want them to admit what they did. Yvette nodded. Those are reasonable goals. Here's what I propose. We file an emergency motion to place a hold on the vacation account until we can resolve the dispute. Because you're the primary account holder and your card was charged, we have legal standing to do this. What does that mean? A hold. It means the hotel and travel company freeze the account. No more services, no more charges, nothing gets added or subtracted until the court reviews the case. It won't ruin their vacation entirely. They'll still have their rooms and their flights home. But all the extras you paid for? The spa days, the excursions, the fancy meals? Those get suspended. My heart was pounding. Won't that make them angrier? Probably. But it also forces them to the negotiating table. Right now they think they can sweet talk or bully you into fixing their problem. A legal hold shows them you're serious. That you're not just going to roll over and forgive and forget. I looked down at my hands, at the age spots and the thin skin and the wedding ring I still wore even though my husband had been gone for decades. These hands had worked 2 jobs to raise my daughter. Had changed her diapers and braided her hair and held her when she cried. Had written check after check to make her life easier. And she'd looked at those hands yesterday and told me to go home. Do it, I said. File the motion. Yvette smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Good. I'll need you to sign some paperwork. And Mrs. Rowe? You're going to want to prepare yourself. When that hold hits, your phone is going to explode. They're going to call you every name in the book. They're going to threaten, they're going to guilt you, they're going to promise they'll never forgive you. I know. Do you? Because this is your daughter we're talking about. Your grandchildren. This isn't going to be easy. I met her eyes. Nothing about raising that girl was easy. I did it anyway. I can do this too. We spent the next hour going through paperwork. Forms to sign, statements to give, authorization for Yvette to act on my behalf. My hand cramped from signing my name so many times. Serafina Rowe. Serafina Rowe. Serafina Rowe. Each signature felt like I was signing away a piece of my old life, the one where I believed family meant loyalty. When we finished, Yvette walked me to the door. The motion will be filed this afternoon. The hold should take effect within 24 hours. Probably by tonight, Hawaii time. How long will the hold last? Until we reach a settlement or the court makes a ruling. Could be weeks. Could be months. Depends on whether they're willing to negotiate. I thanked her and walked out into the bright afternoon. The sun felt too cheerful for what I'd just done. Down on the street, people were going about their normal lives, buying coffee, checking their phones, laughing with friends. Nobody knew that I'd just put a legal stranglehold on my daughter's dream vacation. I got in my car and sat there for a long moment before starting the engine. My phone was in my purse, probably full of more missed calls and angry messages. I didn't check it. Not yet. Instead, I drove to the grocery store and bought ingredients for a real meal. Not rice and beans. Not whatever was on sale. I bought a nice cut of fish, fresh vegetables, a lemon. I was going to cook myself dinner, sit at my own table, and eat without guilt for the first time in years. When I got home, there were two people sitting on my front porch. My daughter and her husband. They'd come home early from Hawaii. Have you ever had to choose between family and justice? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed, because this confrontation is about to get intense. They looked terrible. My daughter's eyes were red and swollen, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. My son-in-law's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. They stood up when I got out of the car, and for a second, nobody spoke. You came home, I finally said, my voice flat. Of course we came home. My daughter's voice cracked. Mom, what did you do? Why would you freeze the account? We're stuck in a hotel room with 2 kids and no money to do anything. The resort kicked us out of our suite. Do you understand what you've done? I walked past them to my front door, bags of groceries in my hands. I understand perfectly. I paid $50,000 for a vacation I wasn't allowed to go on. Now you're having trouble accessing the services I bought. Seems fair to me. Fair. My son-in-law stepped forward. You call this fair? Our children are crying because they can't go to the luau. We look like idiots in front of everyone at the resort. All because you couldn't handle being left behind for one trip. I stopped with my key in the lock and turned to face him. I couldn't handle it. You stole from me. You went into my account and erased me from a trip I funded. Don't talk to me about what I can't handle. My daughter grabbed my arm. Mom, that's not. We didn't steal. You gave us that money. You wanted us to have this vacation. I wanted us to have this vacation. All of us. Including me. I pulled my arm free. And I have proof you accessed my account without permission. I have the modification history. I know it was changed from Austin 3 days before we left. Want to explain that? The color drained from my son-in-law's face. My daughter looked at him, then back at me. How did you? How did I figure it out? Because I'm not stupid, sweetheart. Because I kept records of everything. Because when someone treats me like garbage, I start asking questions. I unlocked my door. Now if you'll excuse me, I have groceries to put away. So that's it. My daughter's voice rose. You're just going to ruin our vacation because your feelings got hurt? I turned back one more time. My feelings got hurt when my dad walked out. My feelings got hurt when I had to work 2 jobs to keep us fed. My feelings got hurt every time I sacrificed what I wanted so you could have what you needed. What happened at that airport wasn't hurt feelings. That was betrayal. That was theft. And I'm done pretending it was anything else. Mom, please. She was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about the airport. It was Jake's idea. He said we'd have more fun if it was just the 4 of us, if we didn't have to worry about you keeping up or needing breaks. I didn't think it would be a big deal. You didn't think it would be a big deal. I repeated the words slowly, tasting each one. You thought I wouldn't mind being erased from a trip I paid for. You thought I'd just smile and wave and say, have fun without me. We were going to pay you back, my son-in-law said. Eventually. When we could afford it. With what money? You don't have $50,000. You can barely make your mortgage payments. I know because I've helped you with those too. You were never going to pay me back. You were going to enjoy your vacation and hope I'd be too nice to make a fuss about it. They didn't deny it. They just stood there on my porch, looking guilty and angry and desperate all at once. So what do you want? My daughter finally asked. You want us to grovel? You want us to admit we were wrong? Fine. We were wrong. Now take the hold off the account so we can salvage what's left of this trip. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. I saw the woman I'd raised, the girl who used to crawl into my lap when she was scared, who used to bring me dandelions and call them roses. But I also saw a stranger. Someone who could look me in the eye and lie. Someone who could take my money and leave me standing alone in an airport. No, I said quietly. What? No. I'm not taking the hold off. My lawyer filed that motion because you committed fraud. You want to negotiate, you can talk to her. But I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being someone you only need when things go wrong. My son-in-law took a step toward me, and something in his face made me take a step back. You're going to regret this, old woman. We'll tell everyone what you did. We'll make sure your grandkids never want to see you again. You'll what? A voice came from behind them. Deacon Harrell stood at the bottom of my porch steps, his phone in his hand. You'll threaten a woman on her own porch? That's what you'll do. My son-in-law's mouth snapped shut. I've been recording this whole conversation, Deacon said calmly. Got it all on video too. So before you say anything else stupid, maybe think about how it'll look when Mrs. Rowe's lawyer shows it to a judge. My daughter looked between me and Deacon, her face crumpling. Mom, please. The kids are asking for you. They don't understand why you're not there. Don't do this to them. And there it was. The final card. Using my grandchildren as weapons. You did this to them, I said. You made the choice to leave me behind. You made the choice to steal from me. You want someone to blame for ruining this vacation? Look in a mirror. I walked inside and closed the door. Through the window, I watched Deacon escort them off my property, watched them get in their rental car and drive away. Only then did I let myself breathe. My hands were shaking as I unpacked the groceries. The fish went in the fridge. The vegetables in the crisper. The lemon in the fruit bowl. Normal, everyday tasks that felt impossible with adrenaline still flooding my system. My phone rang. Yvette. Mrs. Rowe, the hold is now active. I'm guessing you've heard from them. They were just here. At my house. Are you okay? Did they threaten you? They tried. But Deacon showed up and recorded the whole thing. Good. That's excellent actually. We can use that. Listen, I've had a chance to review the account more thoroughly. Mrs. Rowe, there's something else you need to know. My stomach dropped. What? This isn't the first time they've accessed your accounts without permission. I found evidence of smaller transactions over the past year. Nothing huge, a few $100s here, 1,000 there. Always coded as family assistance, so you might not have noticed. But they've been slowly siphoning money from you for months. I sank into a kitchen chair. How much? Close to $15,000, not counting the vacation. 15,000. Plus 50 for the vacation. $65,000 total. My daughter and her husband had been systematically stealing from me for a year, and I'd been too trusting, too eager to help to notice. What do I do? My voice sounded small, even to my own ears. You let me handle it. We're not just talking about a vacation anymore. We're talking about elder financial abuse. This is serious, Mrs. Rowe. This could be criminal. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen as the afternoon light turned golden, then orange, then purple. I didn't cook the fish. I didn't do anything except sit and think about every time I'd transferred money to my daughter's account, every time she'd said she needed help, every time I'd believed her without question. Had any of it been real? Had any of the emergencies been true? Or had I been nothing but a bank account to them, something to drain until there was nothing left? My phone buzzed with a text. But this time it wasn't my daughter. It was Deacon. You did good today. Real good. I'm proud of you. 5 simple words, but they broke something open inside me. I put my head down on the table and cried for the first time since the airport. Not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd finally found, the courage to say no, the strength to stand up, the clarity to see the truth. Tomorrow, Yvette would start building the case. Tomorrow, there would be more confrontations, more pain, more difficult choices. But tonight, I let myself grieve for the daughter I thought I had and the family I'd believed in. Because before I could move forward, I had to let that version of them go. Want to know what happened next? Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because the legal battle is just beginning, and what the court discovers is going to shock everyone involved. The freeze hit their accounts at exactly 9:30 that evening, Hawaii time. I know because that's when my phone started ringing like a fire alarm that wouldn't stop. Call after call after call, each one more frantic than the last. I sat on my couch with the phone face up on the coffee table, watching my daughter's name flash across the screen over and over again. I didn't answer. I just watched. Between calls, the text messages poured in. Some were pleading. Some were angry. Some were downright vicious. You're destroying your grandchildren's childhood memories. I can't believe you're this petty and vindictive. We're stuck here with nothing to do because of your bitterness. The kids are crying. I hope you're happy. But the one that really got me, the one that made my blood run cold, came from my son-in-law at 10:45. When we get back, you'll never see these kids again. I'll make sure of it. You're dead to this family. Dead to this family. The family I'd built with my own hands, sacrificed my entire adult life for, poured every dollar and every ounce of love into. I screenshot that message and sent it to Yvette. She replied within minutes. Perfect. Keep them coming. Every threat makes our case stronger. Our case. That's what this had become. Not a family disagreement or a misunderstanding that could be smoothed over with apologies and time. A legal case with evidence and documentation and lawyers. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt like I was tearing my family apart. But all I felt was tired. Bone deep, soul-crushing tired of being treated like I didn't matter unless they needed something from me. The calls continued past midnight. I turned my phone on silent and went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to the house settle around me, thinking about all the times I'd bent over backward to help them. All the times I'd said yes when I should have said no. When my daughter was 23 and her car broke down, who paid for the repairs? When they needed a down payment for their house, who emptied her savings account? When my son-in-law lost his job for 3 months, who covered their mortgage so they wouldn't lose everything? I'd given and given and given until there was almost nothing left. And the one time I asked to be included, to be part of something I'd paid for, they'd erased me without a second thought. By morning, I had 112 missed calls. I got up, made coffee, and checked my email. Yvette had sent me a message. Mrs. Rowe, they've retained a lawyer. We have a mediation scheduled for next week. Prepare yourself, they're going to fight dirty. Fight dirty. As if stealing $65,000 from me wasn't already as dirty as it gets. I spent the next few days in a strange kind of limbo. My daughter and her husband stayed in Hawaii. They'd already paid for the flights home, which weren't affected by the freeze. But their luxury vacation had turned into a basic budget trip. No spa treatments. No private excursions. No fancy dinners. Just a hotel room and whatever they could afford out of their own pockets, which apparently wasn't much. Part of me felt guilty about that. Part of me remembered the grandkids' faces and wondered if they were having fun or if their parents' anger was poisoning everything. But every time that guilt started to creep in, I'd look at my bank statements and remember, they'd been stealing from me for over a year. This wasn't about one vacation. This was about a pattern of taking and never giving back. Deacon stopped by every day, bringing groceries or just sitting with me in the kitchen, keeping me company. He didn't try to tell me what to do or how to feel. He just listened when I needed to talk and sat in comfortable silence when I didn't. You know what the hardest part is? I said one afternoon, stirring sugar into my tea. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. All the times they asked for help and I just handed over money without questioning it. Was I naive? Was I stupid? You were a mother, Deacon said simply. You trusted your child. That ain't stupid. That's love. They're the ones who took advantage of that love. That's on them, not you. But I should have seen it. I should have protected myself. Serafina, you can't live your life suspecting everyone, especially your own family. That ain't living, that's just surviving. You gave out of love. They took out of greed. Don't let what they did change who you are. I wanted to believe him. But trust, once broken, doesn't just snap back together like a rubber band. It's more like a shattered mirror. Even if you glue the pieces back, you can still see the cracks. My daughter called one last time before they left Hawaii. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up on the 7th ring. What? My voice was flat, emotionless. Mom. She sounded exhausted. Mom, we need to talk about this. Really talk. Not through lawyers. There's nothing to talk about. You stole from me. The lawyers can handle it. I didn't steal. You gave me that money. All of it. You said you wanted to help. I wanted to help my daughter. Not fund a scam. And I certainly didn't give you permission to erase me from a vacation I paid for. Silence on the other end. Then, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Jake said it would be easier if it was just us. He said you'd understand, that you'd be happy we were having family time together. Jake said. I let the words hang there. So this was his idea? All of it? She hesitated. Mom, it's complicated. No, it's really not. Either you decided to cut me out and steal my money, or your husband did and you went along with it. Either way, you made a choice. You chose him over me. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. You want to talk about fare? I gave you everything. Everything. And the one time I asked to be included, you told me to go home. Don't talk to me about fare. The mediation is next Tuesday, she said, her voice small. Will you at least show up? Oh, I'll be there. With every receipt, every bank statement, every piece of evidence that shows exactly what you've been doing. You want to fight this? Let's fight. I hung up before she could respond. If someone you loved betrayed you, would you give them a second chance? Let me know in the comments below. The mediation room was smaller than I expected. Just a conference table, 6 chairs, and a window that looked out over a parking lot. Yvette sat on my right, her briefcase open and organized with the precision of a surgeon's tools. Deacon sat on my left. He'd asked to come for moral support, and I'd said yes without hesitation. Across the table sat my daughter, my son-in-law, and their lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. The mediator, a woman named Patricia with gray hair and kind eyes, sat at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that mediation is voluntary. We're here to find a resolution that works for both parties without going to court. Everything said in this room is confidential. Does everyone understand? We all nodded. Good. Mrs. Rowe, since you initiated this action, would you like to begin by explaining your position? I looked at my daughter. She was staring at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. My son-in-law had his arms crossed, jaw tight, radiating hostility. I took a breath and began. 4 months ago, I planned a family vacation to Hawaii. I paid for everything: flights, hotel, activities, meals. Total cost was $48,732. The booking included 5 people: my daughter, her husband, their 2 children, and me. I slid a copy of the original booking confirmation across the table. 3 days before we were supposed to leave, someone accessed my travel account without permission and modified the reservation to remove me from the trip. I have the modification history showing it was done from an Austin, Texas IP address using an Android device. I slid that across too. Yvette had printed everything in color, highlighting the relevant sections. It looked professional. Damning. When I arrived at the airport, I continued, my voice steady. My daughter told me there was no ticket for me. She told me to go home. They left me standing in the terminal and went to Hawaii without me, using money I had saved and paid. My daughter's lawyer started to speak, but Patricia held up a hand. Let her finish, please. After they left, I hired a travel specialist and a lawyer to investigate. What we found was that this wasn't the only unauthorized access to my accounts. Over the past 14 months, there have been multiple transfers totaling $15,300 from my savings to my daughter's checking account. Transfers I didn't authorize. Transfers that were coded as family assistance to hide what they really were: theft. The word hung in the air like smoke. That's not, my son-in-law started, but his lawyer put a hand on his arm. I worked my entire life, I said, and for the first time, my voice shook. I raised my daughter alone. I sacrificed everything to give her a good life. And the way she repaid me was by treating me like an ATM machine. Like someone who only mattered when they needed money. I want my money back. All of it. And I want them to admit what they did. Silence filled the room. Patricia turned to my daughter's side of the table. Would you like to respond? My son-in-law leaned forward. This is a family matter being blown out of proportion. Yes, we modified the vacation booking, but only because we thought Serafina would enjoy having some time to herself. She's getting older, and we worried the trip would be too strenuous for her. I almost laughed. Too strenuous? I'm 68, not 90. I walk 3 miles every morning. I volunteer at the food bank twice a week. Don't pretend this was about my health. As for the money, he continued, ignoring me, those were gifts. Serafina has always been generous with us. She knew we were struggling. She offered to help. I offered to help with specific things, I said. Car repairs. An emergency dental bill. Not to fund your lifestyle while you plot to cut me out of a vacation I paid for. My daughter finally looked up, her eyes red. Mom, I'm sorry about the airport. I am. But Jake's right, you gave us that money. You can't give someone a gift and then demand it back just because your feelings got hurt. Feelings got hurt? I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice now. You committed fraud. You accessed my accounts without permission. You stole from me. This isn't about hurt feelings, this is about theft. We didn't steal anything. My son-in-law's voice rose. You're just bitter and vindictive because we wanted one vacation without you hovering over us, criticizing everything we do. Hovering. The word came out as a whisper. Is that what you call it when I babysit your children for free? When I pay your bills? When I give up everything so you can have what you want? You never had to do any of that, he shot back. Nobody forced you. You did it because you wanted to control us. This is what it's always been about, control. Well, guess what? We're adults. We don't need your permission to live our lives. Yvette put a hand on my arm, steadying me. Then she opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I'd like to present additional evidence for the mediator's review. She spread documents across the table like dealing cards. Bank statements, email threads, screenshots of text messages, each one showing a clear pattern of my daughter and son-in-law asking for money, me transferring it, and then them coming back for more within weeks. These transfers weren't gifts, Yvette said calmly. They were part of a systematic pattern of financial exploitation. And the vacation modification wasn't a thoughtful gesture, it was calculated. They waited until 3 days before departure to remove Mrs. Rowe from the booking, leaving her no time to dispute it or make other arrangements. That's not oversight. That's intent. Patricia studied the documents, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. She made notes on a yellow pad, occasionally asking questions about specific transactions or dates. The room was silent except for the scratch of her pen and the hum of the air conditioning. Finally, she looked up. I'd like to speak with each party separately. Mrs. Rowe, would you and your representatives please wait in the hall? We filed out. The hallway was sterile and cold, with uncomfortable plastic chairs bolted to the wall. I sat down, suddenly exhausted. Yvette remained standing, checking her phone. Deacon sat beside me and took my hand. You're doing real good in there, he said quietly. Real good. I don't feel good. I feel like I'm destroying what's left of my family. They destroyed it first. You're just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. 20 minutes later, Patricia called us back in. My daughter's eyes were even redder now, and her husband looked like he'd swallowed glass. After reviewing the evidence and speaking with both parties, Patricia began, I believe we can reach a settlement. However, I need to be clear that what I've seen here troubles me greatly. Mrs. Rowe, the pattern of behavior toward you meets several criteria for elder financial abuse. If this proceeds to court, the outcome will likely be much worse for the other party than what I'm about to propose. My daughter's lawyer leaned over and whispered something urgently to my son-in-law. Here's what I suggest, Patricia continued. First, full reimbursement to Mrs. Rowe of $63,732. That includes the vacation costs and the unauthorized transfers. Payment plan of $1,000 per month until the debt is satisfied. My son-in-law opened his mouth to protest, but his lawyer shook his head sharply. Second, all of Mrs. Rowe's accounts will be removed from any joint access or automatic transfers. No further access to her financial information without explicit written consent. Third, and this is non-negotiable, a formal written apology acknowledging what was done and the harm it caused. And if we don't agree to this? My son-in-law asked. Patricia looked at him coolly. Then Mrs. Rowe takes this to court, where she has an exceptionally strong case for fraud, theft, and elder financial abuse. Those are criminal charges. You could face prosecution, jail time, and a judgment that would follow you for the rest of your lives. I strongly advise you to accept this settlement. The room went silent. I watched my daughter, waiting for her to say something, to look at me, to show some sign that she understood what she'd done. But she just sat there, tears rolling down her cheeks, saying nothing. We need time to discuss this, their lawyer finally said. You have 15 minutes, Patricia replied. Use them wisely. Would you accept an apology if it was forced by a lawyer? Share your thoughts in the comments. They came back in 12 minutes. My son-in-law looked like he'd aged 10 years. My daughter wouldn't look at me at all. We accept the terms, their lawyer said. All of them. Patricia nodded and pulled out a pre-drafted settlement agreement. I'll need everyone to review and sign. Mrs. Rowe, please read carefully before you agree to anything. Yvette and I went through the document line by line. It was all there: the repayment plan, the account restrictions, the requirement for a written apology to be delivered within 7 days. There was also a clause that if they missed more than 2 payments, the full balance would become immediately due and could be pursued through court. This is acceptable, Yvette said. Mrs. Rowe. I looked at the paper, at the legal language that was supposed to make everything right. $63,000 paid back over 5 years. An apology that wouldn't mean anything because it was coerced. A daughter who still hadn't looked at me. Before I sign, I said slowly, I want to say something. Patricia nodded. Go ahead. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. I loved you more than anything in this world. I gave you everything I had because I wanted you to have a better life than I did. I wanted you to have opportunities one never got. And somewhere along the way, you learned to see that love as weakness. You learned to see me as someone to use instead of someone to value. My daughter's shoulders shook, but she still wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm signing this because I want my money back. Because what you did was wrong and I deserve justice. But I want you to know that the money isn't what hurts the most. It's knowing that my own daughter was capable of looking me in the eye and lying to me. Of leaving me at an airport like garbage. Of only calling when you needed something. Mom, her voice was barely a whisper. I hope this was worth it, I continued. I hope the vacation was everything you dreamed it would be. Because it cost you more than $63,000. It cost you your mother. I signed the document. My signature was steady. Final. Patricia collected the papers and made copies for everyone. The payment schedule begins next month. The apology is due within 7 days. If there are any violations of this agreement, contact your attorneys immediately. We stood to leave. As I gathered my things, my daughter finally spoke. Mom, can we talk? Please? Just the 2 of us. I looked at Yvette. She nodded. I'll wait in the hall. After everyone else filed out, it was just me and my daughter in that small, cold room. She twisted her hands together, her face blotchy from crying. I never wanted it to be like this, she said. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. You made choices, and those choices had consequences. Jake said. She stopped. No. That's not fair. I can't blame everything on him. I went along with it. I knew it was wrong, and I did it anyway. Why? The question had been burning inside me for weeks. Why would you do this to me? She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was so soft I almost couldn't hear it. Because it was easier than standing up to him. Because every time we had money problems, you were always there to fix it. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as my mom and started seeing you as a solution to our problems. The honesty was like a slap. But at least it was honest. And the vacation? I asked. Whose idea was it to erase me? His. But I didn't fight it. He said we'd have more fun without you there, that we could relax and not worry about keeping you entertained. And her voice broke. I was tired, Mom. Tired of feeling like I owed you for everything. Like I could never be good enough or grateful enough. Leaving you behind felt like freedom. Each word was a knife, but I needed to hear them. Needed to understand. And now? I asked. Now I realize that freedom came with a price. I hurt the one person who's always loved me, always been there for me. And I don't know if I can ever fix that. You can't, I said quietly. Not the way it was. That version of us is gone. You killed it when you told me to go home. She pressed her hands to her face and sobbed. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to reach across the table and hold her like I did when she was small. But I couldn't. That instinct, that automatic need to make everything better for her, had gotten me into this mess in the first place. I have to go, I said, standing up. Your lawyer has all the payment information. Don't miss a payment, and don't contact me unless it's through Yvette. I need time to figure out what comes next. Will there be a next? She asked. Or is this it? Are you really done with me? I stopped at the door. I'm done being used. I'm done being taken for granted. Whether there's anything else, I don't know yet. That depends on whether you can learn to see me as a person instead of a wallet. I walked out and didn't look back. In the parking lot, Yvette was waiting by my car with Deacon. How did it go? She asked. About as well as could be expected. I unlocked my car, my hands only shaking a little. Thank you. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you. You're stronger than you think, Mrs. Rowe. Remember that. She shook my hand and headed to her own car. Deacon gave me a long look. You okay? I will be, I said. And for the first time, I believed it. Stay tuned for the final chapters to see how this story ends. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. The written apology arrived 6 days later, dropped through my mail slot in a plain white envelope with no return address. I stood in my hallway holding it, the paper heavy in my hands like it weighed more than it should. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I made tea, sat at my kitchen table, and looked at the envelope for a long time. When I finally tore it open, the letter was typed. Not handwritten. Just black words on white paper, formatted like a business document. That told me everything I needed to know before I even read the first line. Dear Mom, we acknowledge that our actions regarding the Hawaii vacation and the financial transactions were inappropriate and caused you harm. We should have communicated better and been more respectful of your contributions to our family. We apologize for any distress this has caused and commit to making the agreed-upon payments as outlined in the settlement. We hope that in time, we can rebuild trust and move forward as a family. Sincerely, Rachel and Jake. I read it 3 times, looking for something real. Some genuine remorse, some actual understanding of what they'd done. But it was hollow. Legal language designed to satisfy the settlement requirements without actually admitting anything meaningful. Any distress this has caused. as if they'd accidentally bumped into me on the sidewalk instead of systematically stealing from me for over a year. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Then I filed it in the folder with all the other documents from the case. Evidence. Proof. But not healing. The first payment arrived on the 1st of the month, right on schedule. $1,000 deposited into my account with a memo line that said settlement payment 1 of 64. 64 months. More than 5 years of payments before I'd see all my money back. I transferred it immediately into a separate savings account. Not because I needed the money right away, but because I didn't want it mixed in with anything else. This money wasn't a gift. It wasn't even restitution, really. It was proof that I'd been right, that I'd stood up for myself, that I hadn't let them erase me. The second payment came on time. So did the third. By the 4th month, I'd developed a routine. Wake up at 6. Coffee on the porch watching the sunrise. Walk 3 miles through the neighborhood. Volunteer at the food bank on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Lunch with the church ladies on Wednesdays. Dinner with Deacon on Fridays. My life was full in a way it hadn't been before, when so much of my energy had gone to fixing my daughter's problems and managing her crises. I was sleeping better. Eating better. I'd even started taking an online watercolor class, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. The house felt different now. Lighter somehow, even though I lived alone. Or maybe because I lived alone. Without the constant worry about whether my daughter needed something, whether I should offer help, whether I was doing enough. One Wednesday at lunch, Shirley from the church asked the question everyone had been dancing around for months. Have you heard from Rachel at all? Outside the payments, I mean. I cut into my chicken salad. No. The settlement says all contact has to go through lawyers. She's followed that. And how do you feel about that? I thought about it. Really thought. Relieved, mostly. Sad sometimes. But mostly relieved. Do you miss her? I miss who I thought she was. The daughter I believed I had. But that person might never have existed. Maybe I just wanted her to be someone she wasn't. Shirley reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You did right by yourself, Serafina. Whatever happens next, remember that. The calls from my grandchildren stopped after the mediation. I'd expected that. My son-in-law had made his threat clear. I'd never see them again. Some nights I'd look at old photos on my phone, pictures of the kids laughing in my backyard, covered in ice cream and grass stains and joy. Those nights were hard. I'd wonder if they asked about me, if they missed me, if their parents told them why Grandma wasn't around anymore. Or if I'd been erased from their stories too, just like I'd been erased from the vacation. But then I'd remember, protecting myself wasn't the same as abandoning them. Their parents had made these choices. Their parents had broken this family. I'd simply refused to pretend it hadn't happened. 6 months after the mediation, I got an unexpected visitor. A woman in her 30s, professional-looking, standing on my porch with a briefcase. Mrs. Rowe? My name is Jennifer Chen. I'm a social worker with Adult Protective Services. Do you have a few minutes to talk? My heart dropped. Is this about my daughter? May I come in? I led her to the living room, offered tea that she declined, and waited. We received a complaint, she said carefully, that suggested you might be experiencing financial exploitation by a family member. Given your age and some red flags in the report, we're required to investigate. Who filed the complaint? I can't disclose that. But I need to ask you some questions about your financial situation and your relationship with your family. I almost laughed. Almost. You're about 6 months too late. But yes, I'll answer your questions. I told her everything. Showed her the settlement agreement, the evidence, the bank statements. explained how I'd already taken legal action and won, how the payments were coming in on schedule. Jennifer took notes, reviewed the documents, and finally sat back. Mrs. Rowe, I have to say, what you did took incredible courage. Most people in your situation never report it. They're too ashamed, or they don't want to believe their family could hurt them. I didn't want to believe it either. But the evidence didn't care what I wanted. You did the right thing. And for what it's worth, the person who filed this report seems to genuinely care about your welfare. After she left, I thought about who might have called. Deacon? One of the church ladies? A bank employee who'd noticed the unusual transactions? I'd probably never know. But someone had been watching out for me, even when I hadn't known I needed it. The 8th payment arrived. Then the 9th. Life continued, steady and predictable, and mine. Would you forgive someone who hurt you this badly if they truly changed? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the final chapter of this story. 1 year and 2 days after the airport, I was at the grocery store picking out tomatoes when I heard a small voice say, "Grandma." I turned around. My oldest granddaughter stood there in the produce section, holding her mother's hand. She was taller than I remembered. Her hair was longer. She looked at me with huge, uncertain eyes. My daughter stood frozen, clearly not expecting to run into me. For a moment, nobody moved. We just stared at each other across a display of bell peppers and organic lettuce. "Hi, sweet pea," I said to my granddaughter, my voice catching. "My goodness, you've grown." "Mom said you were busy," she said. "That's why you don't come over anymore." Busy. That's what they'd told her. Not the truth. Not that her parents had stolen from me and left me at an airport. Just busy. "I've been doing a lot of things," I said carefully. "Learning to paint. Volunteering. Spending time with friends. Do you want to see a picture I drew at school? I got an A+. I looked at my daughter. She nodded, just barely. My granddaughter pulled out her phone, when had she gotten a phone? And showed me a picture of a crayon drawing. A house with a garden and a family standing outside. In the corner, separate from the others, was a smaller figure. "That's you," she pointed to the smaller figure. "You're at your house and we're at our house, but I put you in the picture because I miss you." My throat closed up. I couldn't speak. "We have to go," my daughter said quietly. "Come on, sweetie." "Can Grandma come to my birthday party?" my granddaughter asked. "It's in 3 weeks. I'm having it at the park." My daughter looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time in a year. "If she wants to come, she's invited." They walked away before I could answer. I stood in the produce section holding tomatoes I didn't remember picking up, trying not to cry in the middle of the grocery store. That night, I called Deacon. I ran into them today. Rachel invited me to the birthday party. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to go so badly it hurts. But I'm scared. Scared it's a trap. Scared I'll get hurt again. You know what I think? I think you need to do what's right for you. Not what's easy for them. Not what makes them comfortable. What's right for you. I don't know what that is anymore." "Yes, you do. You've spent this whole year learning to put yourself first. Don't stop now." I thought about it for 3 days. On the 4th day, I called Yvette. "If I go to this party, am I violating the settlement? The one that says all contact goes through lawyers." "Technically, yes. But if both parties agree to modify that term, we can file an amendment. Do you want me to reach out to their lawyer?" "Let me think about it." But I already knew what I was going to do. The birthday party was on a Saturday. I showed up with a present. A paint set because my granddaughter had mentioned in that grocery store conversation that she liked art. I stayed at the edge of the park, watching from a distance. My daughter saw me. She walked over slowly, like approaching a wild animal that might bolt. "You came," she said. "She invited me. And she's my granddaughter. That doesn't change, no matter what else happened." "I know." She took a breath. "The payments. All 12 of them. I've made every single one on time." "I know. I get the notifications. And I've been going to therapy. Me and Jake both. Separately and together. Trying to figure out how we got here. How we became people who could do what we did to you." I didn't say anything. Just waited. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she continued. "I know I don't deserve that. But I want you to know I'm trying to change. Really trying. Not because a lawyer said I have to, but because I need to be better. For my kids. For myself." "Words are easy," I said. "It's the actions that matter." "I know. That's why I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. You can believe me or not. That's up to you." My granddaughter ran over, face painted like a butterfly. "Grandma, come see my cake. It's rainbow." She grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the pavilion. My daughter didn't follow. She just stood there, watching us go. I stayed for 2 hours. Watched my grandchildren play. Ate cake. Made small talk with the other parents who pretended not to know about the family drama. My son-in-law stayed on the other side of the park, keeping his distance. When it was time to leave, my granddaughter hugged me tight. "Will you come to my school play? I'm a tree." I looked at my daughter. She nodded. "I'll be there," I said. In my car on the drive home, I cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears. Just tears. The kind that come when something that was broken starts to heal, and you realize healing hurts just as much as breaking did. I didn't know if my daughter would really change. I didn't know if we could ever rebuild what had been destroyed. But I knew one thing. I wasn't the same woman who'd stood in that airport a year ago. I wasn't the woman who said yes to everything and no to nothing. Who gave until there was nothing left to give. I'd learned that love without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. That saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you strong. That sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones you die for, and protecting yourself from them isn't betrayal. It's survival. The payments kept coming. Month 13. Month 14. 64 total until the debt was paid. I didn't know what would happen after month 64. If my daughter and I would rebuild our relationship or if the damage was too deep to ever fully repair. I didn't know if my grandchildren would grow up understanding what really happened or if they'd only know the sanitized version their parents told them. But I knew this. I'd survived. I'd stood up. I'd fought back. And most importantly, I'd learned that my value wasn't determined by how much I could give or how useful I was to other people. I mattered. My presence had value. My love had power. And the next time someone tried to erase me, I'd know exactly what to do. Those 70 missed calls had taught me the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes the people who erase you will need you more than they can admit. And retry el continue edit when that day comes. You don't answer on their terms anymore. You answer on your own. 3 years have passed since that airport. I'm 71 now, and my kitchen table still holds the Hawaii folder, though I don't open it much anymore. The payments continued like clockwork. My daughter and son-in-law never missed a single one. Month 64 came and went, and with it, the final deposit that closed a chapter one never thought I'd have to write. My relationship with my daughter isn't what it was before. It's different. Quieter. More careful. We see each other at the grandchildren's events, school plays, soccer games, birthday parties. We make small talk about the weather and the kids' grades. We don't talk about Hawaii. We don't talk about the money. Some wounds scar over, but they never fully disappear. But here's what changed. She asks now before assuming. She says thank you instead of expecting. And when I say no to something, which I do, more often than I used to, she accepts it without the guilt trips or the manipulation. My grandchildren know me now not as the grandmother who fixes everything, but as the grandmother who paints with them on Saturday afternoons, who teaches them that standing up for yourself isn't mean, it's necessary. That love should never cost you your dignity. I still volunteer at the food bank. Still have lunch with the church ladies. Still walk 3 miles every morning. But now I also travel, real trips, ones I plan for myself. I've been to Savannah, to Nashville, to the Grand Canyon. Places I always wanted to see but never went because I was too busy saving money for other people's dreams. Deacon and I are talking about taking a cruise next spring. Just as friends, though the church ladies have their theories. I just smile and let them speculate. At 71, I've earned the right to keep some things private. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that moment at the airport. The humiliation, the betrayal, the shock of realizing the people you'd sacrifice everything for saw you as disposable. Those memories don't hurt as sharp as they used to, but they're still there. Reminders of why boundaries matter. Why self-respect isn't negotiable. Why love without reciprocity is just servitude in disguise. I learned that justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and documented and backed by lawyers who believe in you. Sometimes it's just refusing to be erased, refusing to pretend everything is fine when it's not, refusing to let people rewrite history to make themselves feel better about what they did. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat. That wanting your family to succeed doesn't mean funding their failures. That you can love someone completely and still need to protect yourself from them. Most importantly, I learned that I am enough. Not because of what I give or what I do for others, but simply because I exist. Because I have value that doesn't depend on anyone else recognizing it. The woman who stood at that check-in counter 1,000 days ago, confused and hurt and alone, wouldn't recognize me now. She was softer, more naive, more willing to accept whatever scraps of affection were thrown her way. But she was also the seed of who I am now. Her pain became my strength. Her humiliation became my boundary. Her erasure became my resurrection. So if you're watching this and you've ever been left behind, talked over, taken for granted, or told that your feelings don't matter, I want you to know something. You are not too sensitive. You are not overreacting. You are not difficult for expecting basic respect from the people who claim to love you. Your presence has value. Your boundaries are valid. Your no is a complete sentence. And if 70 missed calls taught me anything, it's this: the people who need you will always come back. But you don't have to open the door just because they're knocking. You get to decide who deserves access to your life, your love, and your peace. Answer on your own terms. Always. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. It wasn't easy to share, and I know it wasn't always easy to hear. But these stories, the hard ones, the painful ones, the ones that show us at our most vulnerable, these are the stories that remind us we're not alone in our struggles. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own boundaries or your own relationships, please hit that like button and share this video. Your support means the world, and it helps these messages reach the people who need to hear them most. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications, because I have more stories coming. Stories about courage, about survival, about ordinary people who found extraordinary strength when they needed it most. Stories that will inspire you, challenge you, and remind you that you are so much stronger than you think. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had to choose between family and your own well-being? How did you handle it? Your stories matter, And this community is built on sharing our experiences and supporting each other through the hard times. And remember, you are worthy of respect. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of being seen, valued, and included. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Because if you don't, who will?